Mrs. Richardson? Mrs. Richardson?
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson, you realize it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and you called me, and,
Oh, I'm so glad you could come. And at this hour of the morning. I really appreciate it. I really do. And I promise you that I won't try and take advantage of your... Edgar and I spent our honeymoon in Mazatlan. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Well, we did. We did just that. We did exactly that. For 3 fine weeks. And I caught a fish there. The very first fish I'd ever caught in my life.
Mrs. Richardson,
Edgar insists that we have it stuffed. It was only 8 inches long. But he said it was very precious. And that we must preserve those precious moments. Wasn't that marvelous of it, Mr. Petrocelli?
Yes, it was, Mrs. Richardson. Listen,
One thing is perfectly clear to me, and that is the fact that Edgar is the single most beautiful human being alone and above all others on this earth. Oh, would you please tell me what is so funny?
Mrs. Richardson, now, please.
I know I'm not making much sense. And I'm trying very hard to make sense.
Mrs. Richardson!
Oh, God! This did not happen.
Mr. Petrocelli? You wanted to see me?
Oh, yeah, you're,
Majors, Barney Majors, District Attorney's Office.
Yeah, the All-American football hero.
Is that what you wanted to see me about?
No. No, I wanted to see you about my client, Victoria Ann Richardson.
What about her?
She ought to be in a hospital.
She ought to be right where she is. You saw what she did to Richardson.
It's exactly my point. She wasn't in her right mind at the time.
That's not your point. That's your defense.
Well, that's a start, then.
So why should I help you establish it by putting her in a hospital?
We're not talking about trial tactics, Mr. Majors. We're talking about a human being in need of help.
We're talking about a cold-blooded murderess who needs hanging.
I wasn't aware that you were appointed judge.
You proved me wrong, and I'll be the first one to admit it. In the meantime, don't waste my time by trying to make a hero out of yourself. The lady's guilty, so just take the money and run.
Did you hear the news?
Yeah. They even had it on TV.
Listen, I want a complete book on Edgar Richardson.
Well, what about her?
Now, him first, for motive. He must have done something that made her snap.
All right, it's gonna cost you. I gotta get a couple of guys.
Okay, get them. If the lady has some money, I'll be able to pay them.
You might even be able to pay me.
Well, I don't like to establish a precedent. Listen, here's a full bill of particulars. I gotta get to court. Call Maggie when you get something.
You bet.
Number 182258, Victoria Ann Richardson. Victoria Ann Richardson, is that your true name?
Yes, sir.
The district attorney of this county hereby accuses Victoria Ann Richardson of a felony to wit, murder, and that on or about the 10th day of August of this year, you did unlawfully, with malice aforethought, murder Edgar Charles Richardson. Victoria Ann Richardson, how do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
August the 15th, 10 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Petrocelli.
Thank you.
How'd you know it was me?
I didn't.
Ooh.
But I was hoping, maybe before the day is over.
The day is already over for you, baby. Whoops. Ooh, ooh. I've got a lady's head I've got to examine. Oh, do me a favor. Get me Herbie Choate, will you?
Okay.
Hey, Linus. Yeah. Look, animal named Abragast, 4th race, Hollywood. 5-2 in. Yeah, in Deus Paramus. Right.
Dr. Choate.
Oh, thanks. Herbie? Who else am I gonna call? Yeah, listen, Herbie, she's at the women's detention down at the jail. Look, I know you can't give an opinion without an examination, but I'd like an impression. You know, your esteemed opinion. You are beautiful. I'll meet you there in an hour and a half. Mrs. Richardson, I want you to meet a very dear friend of mine. Mrs. Richardson, this is Dr. Choate.
Dr. Choate?
How do you do, Mrs. Richardson?
Call me Vicky. Both of you.
Yes, well, shall we sit down?
Dr. Choate is a psychiatrist.
Why a psychiatrist?
It's routine in a case like this.
I am not insane.
Oh, no one says you are.
And I was not insane when I murdered Edgar.
Vicky, could you try to tell us what happened to the best of your recollection?
Well, earlier that evening, Edgar and I had gone to the music hall to hear... I don't remember the names.
It was Saturday night. The guest conductor was Jorge Contrell, and the featured soloist is Marian Gaddis.
The names are not important.
I was just trying to help.
Do the names bother you at all, Vicky?
No, I just dislike being interrupted.
Please excuse me. Continue.
Well, I'd had a headache all evening. Actually, I'd had a headache all day, but I was bearing up well enough. Until they started the Grieg. Well, actually, it wasn't the Grieg. It was that ridiculous girl at the piano, making a spectacle of herself, making eyes at the maestro. If she'd paid half as much attention to her music as she did to the conductor, she wouldn't have been such a disgrace. And what was worse, the maestro was encouraging her. It was a shameful and unprofessional display. I'd like to leave, please.
Come.
No. Anyway, Edgar didn't mind at all our leaving early. He never has been particularly fond of classical music, which makes it even more remarkable that on the way home, he started humming that melody from the first movement.
I'm afraid I was very rude about his humming.
I told you to stop that humming. Can't you be quieter? Why don't you go get the ice in the kitchen?
After he'd gone, I noticed that he had left the ice pick on the bar, right in front of me. I was very upset. I loved Edgar very much, and I couldn't understand why he tormented me with his humming. It was as if he was trying to provoke me. I felt a chill. Left the bar, went over to the fireplace, turned it on. Then I went to the piano. I was still annoyed at the incompetence of that maestro and his soloist, playing their little love games when they should have been playing Grieg. I couldn't seem to hold back my anger at them and at Edgar because of his silly humming.
Like your nightcap now?
Just put it on the bar, please. He walked over to the sofa, sat down, and then he did it again. He started to hum again, that Grieg melody. He wouldn't stop that humming. There was nothing else to do, don't you see? I went over to him and I shouted at him, "Just shut up!" And when he just looked up at me and smiled, I hit him in the face. Stop it! Stop! Stop! It was only after I had stopped hitting him that I saw that I had the ice pick in my hand.
But it was at least 5 hours until you called me.
Was it?
Vicky, is there anything else you want to tell us?
Well, there was one thing. I remember thinking how strange it was that he had changed his clothes. He was no longer wearing his tuxedo.
He wears tuxedos to the concert?
Yes, of course.
Well, it's a little strange because my wife and I are at the concert, and most people dress rather casually.
Mr. Petrocelli, it's not the kind of thing one is likely to be mistaken about.
Mrs. Richardson.
Vicky.
All right. Have you ever been treated for mental illness?
No. Have you?
Vicky, you're the one being accused of murder.
Of murder, I may be guilty. Of insanity, I am not.
Well, perhaps you were insane at the time.
Ah, come on now, Herbie. How do you think I'm going to sell that to a court? I'm going to say, listen, Your Honor, my client, Vicky Richardson, was sane Friday and Saturday. Then Saturday night, she was insane. Then bright and early, Sunday morning, she was sane again. I mean, because of that, she ought to be free. Now, would you buy that, Vicky?
No.
But I would. I'm not saying that it happened that way, but it's possible.
Herbie, that's the trouble with your psychiatrists. You almost never become trial judges.
Mr. Petrocelli, I am not insane.
Would you settle for legally?
I don't want to.
Vicky, do you want to live?
I don't deserve to live.
But do you want to?
Yes, I want to.
Would you be crazy not to?
How about some coffee?
How do you like it?
What?
The fireplace.
Hey, it's gorgeous. Can I hang my stocking from the mantelpiece?
You'll have to wait a little while because it's still back at the lumberyard.
Hey, I got your message about, I think it was the McNaughton rule.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
The McNaughton rule is the rule by which people are adjudged to be either sane or insane in the criminal courts of the United States.
What is it?
It is a dilemma firmly embedded in a misconception.
You are going to be a husband firmly embedded in the backyard if you don't tell me what it is.
Okay. I have heard of the presumption of innocence, right?
You're innocent until you're proven guilty.
There's also the presumption of sanity.
So you're sane until you're proven insane.
Right. Now, the state will say that Vicki Richardson is now sane, just as she was at the time of the killing.
So you're innocent until you're proven guilty, unless you're crazy, in which case, you're guilty until you're proven innocent.
Exactly.
I'll get it. Yeah? Who? Oh, hello. Well, I'll take the message.
Who was it?
Barney Majors, the assistant DA.
Yeah, what did he want?
The pleasure of your company right now at Wilson Field. But he said, please.
Right, stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight. Lean to the left, lean to the right. Stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight. Lean to the left.
That's right. Keep your shoulder down.
That your son?
Petrocelli. That's my boy. Mickey, the middle linebacker. You see that hit? Almost tore his head off.
I like your new office.
You still think you're going to get her off?
It's as sure as the Dolphins are going to win another Super Bowl.
You're crazier than she is.
You stipulate that she's crazy?
Sure. If you plead her guilty to murder one.
No way. No, she's not guilty.
By reason of insanity?
That's the theory.
Then you'll be pleased to know that I'm way ahead of you. My psychiatrist, the eminent Dr. Steinberg, examined her this morning.
Yeah, what did he decide?
That she's as sane as the next woman. Which isn't saying a whole heck of a lot, but it'll stand up in court.
Now, the next thing you'll be telling me that it's perfectly normal to kill people who hum Grieg after dark.
For what?
That's the motive.
That's what she said to you, but that's not a motive.
Well, did you call me here to watch a football game?
I got the best evidence. The horse's mouth. And I got her under subpoena.
You're talking about another woman?
The other woman. Her name is Ellen Knox. So why don't we save the taxpayers some money, huh? Forget the trial. Because once you hear my new amended version of what really happened, I think you'll just change your plea to guilty and let justice take its wonted course. Let's skip the concert and pick up the Richardsons at home. He was still humming that tune, so she told him to shut up. But she kept her hands over her ears in case he didn't. And that's why she didn't hear the telephone ring. Didn't see Edgar's reaction.
Hello? No, I can't talk to you now. All right, I'll take it out in the kitchen. All right, I'll get the ice in the kitchen.
She saw the ice pick Edgar had left at the bar and picked it up to get the feel of it. Maybe that'd stop his humming. Then she heard an angry woman's voice coming from the phone. Now, even Edgar didn't get business calls at that hour, so she decided to do some listening. Now, she trusted Edgar about as much as I trust you, Petrocelli, so she had to find out who belonged to that feminine voice and what she wanted. The caller, of course, was Ella Knox. Edgar was in the kitchen hoping to cut the call short so that he could get back before Vicki got suspicious, but it was already too late for that. Ella was reading Edgar the riot act by threatening to come over and tell Vicki about their affair. Little did she know that she'd already told Victoria Ann the whole story, or enough of it, so that when Edgar returned to the bar with the ice, Victoria Ann had her own plans for him.
Yes, sir. White ice.
Edgar had no idea he'd been overheard and figured he just had a narrow escape. He'd managed to put off Ella Knox, and now he was with his wife as if nothing happened.
Here you are.
I told you I didn't want to drink.
He took his drink and went over to get comfortable. He thought he could relax. But he was wrong. Dead wrong. If Victoria Ann was insane, she was insanely jealous. Because in a cold-blooded and rational act of murder, she went to work with the ice pick. Any questions, Counselor?
Yeah, how did you get Ellen Knox's testimony? Where did you find her?
She came right to us the next morning, like she told Edgar she'd do. When he didn't show up outside, she came waltzing right up to the front door. And both the little lady's stories corroborate with each other's in every respect. And that's not motive, Mr. Petrocelli. I'll kiss your Phi Beta Kappa key.
I'll have it polished for you. Because her testimony still won't change that insanity plea.
Maybe, but it's the kind of stuff juries like to cut their teeth on.
Then I'll have to make sure that you never get it as far as a jury.
You're not going to stop this at the preliminary hearing. No way, we're not going to trial.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but Mickey just missed a tackle. I'll see you in court, Coach. First and foremost, who's Ellen Knox?
Ellen Knox? I don't know.
You never heard of her?
Never.
Okay. Now, the night of Edgar's death, did you use the telephone in the bar area?
Well, yes, to call you.
You didn't use it to eavesdrop on a conversation between Edgar and another woman, did you?
Of course not. What other woman?
Okay, let me give it to you straight. Apparently, Edgar was involved with another woman. And she telephoned him while he was trying to get the ice out.
Well, that's impossible. I would have heard the phone ring.
Unless you had your ears covered to avoid hearing Edgar hum Grieg.
Yes. I guess that's possible. But he certainly didn't talk to her.
Vicky, it seems that he did. He spoke to her in the extension in the kitchen. Now, they claim you listened in on the bar phone. When he came back with the ice, that's when you killed him.
That's not true.
Vicky, are you sure?
Well, of course I'm sure.
You see, the state's going to use that against us. That's the motive. Now, it's going to hurt our insanity plea. Can you understand that?
Yes, I think so. But I can't plead a lie. It would be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be wrong.
Who is this other woman?
Her name is Ellen Knox.
Well, who is Ellen Knox?
We're working on it. One thing's for sure, though. We'll find out who she is in court tomorrow.
Dr. Starnberg, as I understand it, your interview with the defendant lasted for over an hour.
That's correct.
And what was her demeanor during the interview?
She was calm, quiet, and yet she was quite stubbornly uncooperative.
She was uncooperative in what way?
She refused to answer my questions about her girlhood, her adolescence.
You found no evidence at all of psychosis?
None, whatever.
Would you now state for us, doctor, your professional opinion as to the state of sanity of the defendant at the time of the homicide?
She was conscious of what she was doing, and she was sane in both a medical and a legal sense.
Thank you, doctor. Your witness, Mr. Petrocelli?
I'm going to be pretty brief with you, Doctor. Doctor, as I understand it, you based your opinion of the defendant's sanity on two things. An interview you had with her and also a battery of psychological tests.
That's correct.
Now, how long after the homicide did you administer these tests?
4 days.
4 days after the homicide. Any sign of abnormality?
None.
None. But that was 4 days after the homicide. Now, what did your test tell you about the defendant's sanity at the time that she killed her husband?
Well, naturally, nothing that you could pinpoint on the exact time.
I see. So for all you know, then, with all your testing, with all your interviewing, the defendant could be perfectly sane now, but she could have been entirely insane at the time that she killed her husband.
That's an assumption that is...
Your Honor, I'm asking the witness a question.
Well, it's not a fair question.
Your Honor, I'd like to...
The witness will answer.
My tests are not definitive as to her state of mind at precisely that moment.
At what moment?
Moment of the crime.
In other words, for all you know, she might have been insane at that moment.
Oh, might, yes?
Thank you, Doctor. No further questions. Herbie.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Herbie, I want to talk to you. Come on.
You understand there's some things more important than just talking.
It's all right. We were just browsing.
Sit down, will you, Herb?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
Hey, listen, Herbie. I wanted to ask you what you thought of my cross-examination of Dr. Starnberg.
Well, I thought it was abusive, it was corrosive and indefensible.
Well, never mind the flattery. Is there anything else that I missed?
Yeah, you forgot the napalm.
Come on, I'm serious, Herbie.
And so am I. Listen, you're gonna push Starnberg so far, and you're gonna get everybody so fed up with the psychiatric testimony that nobody's gonna pay any attention to me. That is, if you put me on the stand.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
Why do you think Vicky wouldn't talk to Starnberg?
Father figure.
It's not that simple, is it?
The raw shot, the TAT, all the tests show that she had this paralyzing fear of father figures. You know, I'd like to know more about her father, about her past.
Yeah, well, Pete's working on it.
Yeah. What'd you find in the house?
It's what I didn't find that really concerns me. There was no tuxedo there. We looked in the trash cans, we changed the ashes around, but nothing.
Well, see, she was very, very positive about the tuxedo. She even repeated it when I interviewed her.
Well, we found 3 love letters from Ella Knox to Edgar Richardson.
Just what Majors needs to establish a motive, huh?
So when Mr. Richardson picked up the extension in the kitchen, what did he say?
That he was having a nightcap with her and that he couldn't talk.
What did you say to that?
That he'd better talk to me right there and then, or else I'd come right over and show his wife our marriage license.
Marriage license?
Counsel will kindly restrain himself.
Marriage license. Please mark for identification.
Marriage license. Ella Knox and Edgar Richardson, Santa Fe, New Mexico, April the 9th, 19... Well, this is 3 years old, Mr. Majors.
Was never used, Your Honor.
Let the record show that the witness acknowledges the document as a marriage license.
Your Honor, may I see that, please? Thank you, Your Honor.
The clerk will mark it for identification. It's People's Exhibit number 6.
So this marriage license was taken out after Mr. Richardson's marriage to Victoria Ann Richardson?
Yes, a couple years later.
Was it a stunt?
No. He was all set to commit bigamy. That's how much he cared for me.
So you mentioned the marriage license over the telephone.
Yes.
So that Mrs. Richardson must have heard.
Objection. No foundation. Your Honor, it has not been established that Mrs. Richardson has heard anything.
Objection sustained.
I'll rephrase. You're certain you mentioned the marriage license?
I'm certain, because he said he thought I burned it.
Why do you think that?
Because I tricked him. I made a photostatic copy of the original, and I burned that in front of him. He never noticed it was a copy. I wasn't going to burn the original, right?
Did he say anything else about the marriage license?
Yes, that if a copy was still in my possession, I must promise under pain of death to burn it.
He threatened you with death?
Edgar threatened me. He meant his death.
He was frightened for his own life?
He said if his wife ever saw that license, she'd kill him.
Miss Knox? It is still Miss Knox. Edgar was the only bigamist, or near bigamist, is that right?
Of course.
Oh, I see. Now, you submitted a marriage license to this court.
Yeah.
Marriage license was 3 years old.
It's still legal.
Only because it wasn't burned as Edgar wished. At any rate, according to your statement, 3 years ago, Edgar and you were going to get married.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
And that was because
Well, for whatever reason, Edgar returned to his wife, he asked her to burn the license, and he resumed his life. Miss Knox, do you really believe that Mrs. Richardson, in anger, killed her husband over an affair that ended 3 years ago?
I didn't say she could. I didn't say she could kill him because she was jealous.
Are you saying that you don't believe that Mrs. Richardson killed her husband?
No, I'm not saying that either.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection overruled. The witness will answer.
I think she killed him, all right. For his money.
You don't think Mrs. Richardson loved her husband?
No, I don't. Neither did he. He said that she'd always been in love with another man. Somebody she knew a long time ago. Some band leader.
Band leader?
That's right. And don't ask me his name because Edgar never told me.
Your Honor, in view of the time, the defense requests that we break for lunch.
Court will stand in recess till 2 p.m.
All rise.
Look, Vicky, I want you to get your head together now, just for a minute. Now, please.
How could Edgar take up with such a...
He undoubtedly took up with it because you were in love with another man.
That's not true.
Ella made up the band leader?
If she didn't, Edgar did. I was completely faithful to Edgar.
We're not talking about faithful, we're talking about love.
But how would I know a band leader? I don't pay any attention to popular music.
You like the classics, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And you play them on the piano.
I try. I don't play well enough for the classics.
Why don't I believe you? I mean, why are you lying to me?
I am not lying. Why are you doing this? What difference does it make?
The difference between life and death, Vicky, yours. Look, I want to put you on the stand, but I don't dare. It's the only chance we've got left, but I can't do it because you're not leveling with me.
You don't know that.
Look, I can't prove it, but believe me, I know it. I know it, Vicky. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to get through this town and see if you can find that maestro Jorge Contrell.
What if he's left town?
No, he hasn't left town. He's got another concert to do. As a matter of fact, he's probably rehearsing at the music hall right now.
What do I do with him?
I want you to bring him right into the courtroom to the defense table. You got it?
Got it.
Oh, Pete. Make sure he's wearing a tuxedo.
Tuxedo?
Tuxedo. Hi, honey. Would you get the cassette recording machine out of the office, the one we use for dictation?
Sure.
Yeah. And beg, borrow, or steal a cassette recording of Grieg's Piano Concerto in...
A minor.
Right, baby.
Bye.
Herbie? No, Herbie, don't get nervous just because the whole case rests on your shoulders.
So that you're trying to tell this court that the tests you administered to the defendant are the same as Dr. Steinberg's, but that each of you came up with diametrically opposite opinions?
That is correct.
Well, you cannot deny that you may be equally as wrong as the defense claims Dr. Steinberg to be.
I deny nothing except that the defendant is now of sound mind.
No further questions.
Your Honor, the defense excuses Dr. Schout and calls to the stand the defendant, Victoria Ann Richardson.
You may step down.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth.
Just stand by and I'll give you the signal. Play it. Start at the piano solo, first movement.
Right here in chord.
Yes, right here. Good and loud.
Okay.
Okay. Vicky?
Yes.
Did you kill your husband, Edgar Richardson?
Yes, I did.
Are you certain of it?
I am.
With an ice pick?
Yes.
Do you remember it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Vicky. I just want you to relax now and let me do the talking. In my own words, I want to try to set forth the events that took place that night. Now, Vicky and her husband were at the concert. Edgar was listening to the music, but Vicky wasn't. It became too painful for her. It brought back memories of her career years ago when she was on the concert stage. And the sight of a new young soloist made her jealous and angry. She couldn't stand it. She had to leave.
I want to go now, please.
Go?
Now, please.
And as Vicky left, jealous and hurt, she cast a look at her old lover and the stage that had once been hers. That image stayed with Vicky as she and Edgar arrived home. Jorge Contrell and the soloist flirting openly, as perhaps she had done with him years before. It upset her, as did Edgar's humming. She couldn't understand why he kept it up. She was confused.
Poor dear. Why don't I mix a nightcap? It'll make you feel better.
I don't want a nightcap, thank you, Edgar.
Oh, come on now. Daddy knows best.
Edgar was worried about her strange mood and wanted Vicky to have a drink. His fatherly concern built up even more anxiety for her as her thoughts returned to Jorge Contrell's soloist.
Oh, that stupid girl. Her technique was awful. You'd have thought she had a claw for a left hand.
I'm sure you could have done it much better.
I haven't seen a concert stage in years. I could play better than that in my sleep. Please stop that humming. Just go get the ice in the kitchen, will you?
Hello? I can't talk to you now.
When Ella Knox called, Vicky never even heard the phone ring because she was in a world of her own, already far removed from reality. Ella's threats to tell Vicky about her and Edgar and to reveal their marriage license couldn't reach Vicky where she was.
I'm going out to the kitchen for a minute.
And when she picked up the ice pick in front of her, Vicky wasn't even aware of what it was. In the face of her emotional strain, objects had suddenly become meaningless. A strange and uncomfortable feeling came over her, one she had never before experienced. She felt a chill, so she went over and turned on the fireplace. Now, all the while Edgar was on the phone with Ella Knox, Vicky became more and more disoriented. She was a stranger in her own home, but she was drawn toward the only familiar object which made any sense to her at this point, her piano. Vicky sought refuge in the music which had brought her so much pleasure in the past. But tonight, her music could only bring back those long, hidden, and painful memories. As Edgar returned from the kitchen, Vicky continued to play, and she withdrew from reality even further into her fantasy world. Edgar had no way of knowing what was going on in her mind. He thought she was enraptured with her music and considered this a good chance to hang up the phone and cover up his conversation with Ella Knox. But he needn't have worried because Vicky was totally oblivious to him.
You like your nightcap now?
Just put it on the bar.
At this point, Victoria Ann Richardson had crossed over that fine line of sanity. and she could no longer be held legally or morally responsible for her actions.
Jorge, don't mock me. Don't mock me. I loved you, Jorge. Jorge, don't mock me. Don't mock me. Don't mock me.
Vicky. With your permission, Your Honor. Maggie? Louder. Pete, bring in Mr. Cantrell.
What happens to Vicky now?
And all for a wild treatment in the state hospital.
And then?
Depends how she responds.
Well, there's a very good chance, I think. You see, when she realized what she had done to the maestro, she began to accept her condition, and that's half the battle.
Well, Tony, I hate to bring this up, but I got a heavy date, and I'm gonna need some money.
All righty. Here's 10. That'll make us even for July.
That's a good start. Now, what about August?
We'll talk about it in December. You ready, honey?
I'm ready.
Miss?
Don't look at me.
I'm an invited guest.
Tony.
Come on, Pete. Could you loan me 10? Keep the change, huh? Shall we?
Yes.
Yeah. Take care, Pete.
Bye, Pete.
Tony. What am I gonna tell my date?
Well, tell her to lend you 10 till payday.